Hey, if your mixes stink, there are 3 surefire things that will make it better. I'm gonna show you all of those 3 things in this video, and the third one really changed my life, so stick around for that. Let me know in the comments, if something stinks, do you wash it or do you put on cologne? In this video, I'm going to show you how to wash a mix. First up, you need to start your mix with a blank slate, and by that I mean being done with all the production beforehand. But of course, some mixing is being done in production, choices of sound, ballpark levels and such, but before the mixing session, the production needs to be done. And what I typically do is that I have a DAW session, for example, where I have the beat and some MIDI files, I might have some vocal files and so on. I will export those out as audio tracks, and then I'll import it into a new session. Usually that's a template, but this time around I'm starting fresh without a template. And before I import, I just make sure that I import with the same settings as I exported it. So make sure to select the correct sample rate. In Logic, for example, this is done automatically, but you can never be too sure. So if it's 44.1, make sure your project is 44.1, or if it's 48, make sure it's 48. Import it, and then you have it in a new blank slate. Another important thing in this process is to just adjust the BPM. Now, if you like this video so far, hit the like button. And the second thing you need to do to make your mix stink a bit less is to tidy it up. Give names to the tracks, order them in a sequence, and color them. Look here. In most part, this process can be done without listening to anything, but some places I need to listen to check if the kick really is a kick. That's usually the case, but for example, when it says log drum, for example, I just need to make sure that this is not just the name of the sample that was used, which function it has. Maybe it's a bass, maybe it's a percussion instrument. I need to check and name it accordingly. Then I will make names for all the tracks, and then I will arrange them in a sequence. I'll start off with the kick at the top, and then I will go snare, hi-hat, open hat, percussion, cymbals, and then I will go down to the bass, and then the instrument section, and the most important instruments first and the less important instruments later. Finally comes the vocals, and I'll start with the lead vocals, and I'll go hook or chorus, and then finally the background vocals. And that's the setup. Then I have the sequence. And then finally, coloring all the tracks. And I actually used to laugh at people coloring their tracks for their mixing session, but it takes 10 seconds to color your tracks. You just select all the tracks from the drum group, and then you just select the color there, and then the same thing for the bass, and same thing for the instruments, and then the vocals. Usually I'll distinguish between lead vocals and backing vocals, and that's it. This way the mix is tidy and clean. I know where everything is, and I use the same system in all mixes, so that if I have to go back to a mix 2 years from now, I know where everything is, I know what everything is, and there's no mess. And if you want to go even further with the mixing, download my free mixing guide. The link is in the description, where I give you 15 tips on mixing and my 10-step workflow that I use every time I mix a song. Now, here comes the third surefire thing to do to make your mix stink a little less. And that's create a hierarchy using groups. Group together the drums, group together the bass tracks and the instruments tracks and the vocals. And you do this by creating buses. In Logic, you can choose whether you want to route all the tracks to individual buses, or if you want to make track stacks. That's really optional, but in most DAWs, you have the option of routing tracks together in a bus. So then I have one channel for the drums, one for the bass, one for the instruments, and 2 for the vocals, lead vocals and background vocals. And then again, I will route everything instrumental into a beat bus and everything vocal into a vocal bus or a cappella bus. So I only have 2, instruments and vocals. And then at a later point when I'm in the mixing session, I can control all things vocal using only one fader and all things instrumental using one fader. And I can control everything drums using one fader, and so on and so forth with the lead vocals and the bass and everything. So this is really practical and it rids the mixing session of overwhelm. So I really like this strategy, and it really changed my life, because before I was always lost in the mix. I had 40, 50, 60 tracks going on and it was a mess. So to wrap it up, you start your mixing session with a blank slate, all the production is done and there are clean tracks in your session. And then you tidy it up by giving the tracks name, sequence, and color all the regions accordingly. And then finally you group them together in buses. And this will ensure you will have an effective mixing session and an enjoyable experience mixing your own songs. And I hope you liked this video. If you did, hit the like button and also consider subscribing if you want more videos like these. And when you have all this set up, you have all the tracks like here, the next step is to make a static mix. And a static mix is when you tweak the faders and the pan knobs and adjust volume on all tracks so that the mix sounds as good as possible. And I will show you that in this video. I will go through how I set up a static mix so that in the long run I will use as little plugins as possible, but only where it matters. And if you're still here, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and I hope I see you in that video. Peace!